on this week's full-time roundup. Daniel and Matt get you caught up on all things Champions League. And of course, it's Thursday, so prediction show. Full-time roundup starts right now. And welcome into the latest edition of the full-time roundup. Matt Gesslin here, joined in person again with Daniel Brackett, Coffee Cast, as we are at Hobbyist Coffee Shop, one of our favorite coffee shops here in Charlotte. Daniel, good morning. I see that you've had a couple of sips now, so hopefully, as we've talked about before, your voice will change as the episode goes. But good morning to you, and a lot to cover this morning. Anything that you would like to share as a post-Valentine's Day night for you and your loved ones?
Not really, other than I hope everyone felt love today or yesterday in some capacity. It is 8 a.m. On the East Coast, so around this time I don't see anyone in the morning. So this is definitely new for me. But what we do for the cause, right?
For the cause,
and to kind of jump right into it. Premier League, Monday night. Chelsea and yourself, you've been quiet, but you might be back, and I know you are.
I am not back.
You're back.
I'm not. I haven't had any coffee yet either. It's still early, so yes, I'm still recovering from waking up and seeing Daniel's grim face this hour. Back. This was not a great performance. Conor Gallagher, of course, saves the day at his former club. Not his club. He obviously was on loan from Chelsea, but a place that kind of got him started and really kind of set the tone for him in the last couple seasons.
That was his most well-known stint.
It was,
right?
yeah.
Where did he go before that? Was it Championship?
I think he was in the Championship, but then more just kind of was he's still a young player. He's still only 23 years old, so I think he was an academy kid for us, and then ended up in Palace. Honestly, that's how much Palace helped him out. I didn't really know his story beforehand. So, but again, he had, an absolute moment that he'll remember forever. Of course,
2 moments.
Yeah, but I mean, ultimately, I think to your point, are we back? I think it was a really poor performance across the board. Really, I mean, we went down, of course. Absolute banger from Lermer with that shot to put it, basically where Pekovic couldn't get to, and gives them a 1-0 lead, and then. We kind of fought really poor first half all around. And again, we're playing Palace, so yes, you expect the team to have possession and kind of dominate, but it wasn't the same type of performance as we saw against Villa. It was more of that passive, just kind of possession for possession purpose. I thought, like we talked about after the Villa game, the team was much more aggressive and change of pace, and you saw kind of what that team could look like. But again, with this Chelsea squad, as we've talked about before, just a lack of consistency. Now, the big thing is they get 3 points, and then they break the losing streak in the Premier League after 3 losses in a row. So that's big. They move up to 10th, and again, outside shot at 7th, which would be a Europa Conference League spot. Whether or not I would like that, I don't know yet. I'm indifferent on that, as I've given a lot of people a hard time about that competition in the past. But I guess there is technically still an outside shot for 6th, depending on results going forward.
Probably not.
Probably not, though. But only 5 points behind United, so not terrible, or a few more points than that, but not 6 points, I think, but not too far behind. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I told you after the Villa game, I don't think we're back. I'm going to continue that streak right now. We're not back, but a win is a win, and we have a big one on Saturday. So if we can get a result on Saturday, which I know will help you and Liverpool, and as well as Arsenal fans that are listening, then I can maybe say that there's some type of momentum to being back. But when we were talking about saying Chelsea's back, Chelsea have been top 4 club perennially for the last 15 years. So if that's what we're classifying as back, this Chelsea squad is not back, as you're putting it.
A couple things here. I was trying to really get you to buy into this just because I know I'm going to just tear you down on Sunday after the City game.
Oh, which is why I'm not too high on it. I'm not.
You kind of know my plot and why, because Palace didn't have Elise or Eze. So they were literally had no one on the field that was worth noting, to be honest. I actually placed a wager on this, which I couldn't believe. I was actually betting on Chelsea. Of course, Lerma scores a banger. Chelsea doesn't register a shot on target in the first half, and I'm kind of motherfucking you in the text messages. Why did I do this?
Which I could have told you was a terrible
Which you
idea.
did. But then I made the point about how Crystal Palace missing literally everyone. You're like, well, that's a good point, I guess. But I did, Chelsea did respond well with 3 consecutive goals in the second half. They also, it seemed like that midfield came back to life a little bit. I thought Castillejo, who I'd been very tough on, especially because of the whole drama on the offseason. So there is a bias there, but I just have not been impressed with him all season, especially how he played at Brighton. I thought Gallagher, obviously, with the brace, played really well. And then Enzo Fernandez is now adding that final piece in the final third. So I thought the midfield came back to life. So that's 3 wins in a row, I believe. I think. I'm gonna have to check. But
two in a row.
Is it 2 in a row?
Yeah, Villa. We lost both Premier League games going into that Villa battle, and then 2
Really?
games. Yeah,
Okay.
we lost to you guys, and we lost to Wolves 4-1, 3-1.
Shit, you're right. Okay,
Yeah.
never mind. Well, that's 2 wins in a row. You guys somehow, some way, best performance probably all season against City last time. So we'll see if you can put it in the shift. We're gonna preview that later. So spoilers, but just a plug. I just started a gambling show with my buddy Harrison on the platform. City is going to be a large wager for me. So just gonna preface that and plug that in here. But congratulations on your win. I'm sure you really needed that, and I guess we'll really reconvene on Sunday and see how that goes.
We will, and to your point, just before we move on, the midfield is starting to look a little better. I think there's still pieces that are missing as well. I've talked about, even though he has looked good, Conor Gallagher for me is not the long-term solution in that midfield. I think.
You said he's 23 though.
I know, but I still like what Lavia potentially could bring to the table. A little different opportunity, but we'll see. I mean, that might just be me personally. Of course, there is a lot of rumors about Conor Gallagher again moving in the summer. Spurs are continually coming to look for him, and just so that to put some housekeeping things on this, he's an academy product, so anything that we make off of sale for him would be complete FFP, which would be complete profit. So we're looking, if someone offers us $60 million for him,
that makes sense.
It's kind of hard to kind of say no to that. So we'll see what happens.
Question: how the hell are you getting a $200 million war chest in summer with all these expenditures already? Like how are they pulling the levers? Is it because the 8-year amortization contracts that they signed? Is that?
Yeah, I mean that's part of it. That is part of
how
it.
Is that possible?
I mean, obviously they've made contract decisions so that they can stretch out salaries and wage bill, but they are going to have to make some moves to get rid of some players to kind of free up some cash. But yeah, I mean, it's not as bad of a situation as some of the other clubs that have really gone all in and done shorter. And part of the new construction of contracts is because of the way that Chelsea created these 8-year contracts, and the league was like, well, now we have to make these 5. So it's a little bit kind of convoluted, but eventually the bill will come due at some point. We're just kind of giving us a little bit of a runway at this point.
Which is, number one, you guys are going to be sellers, it seems, at first. So it's going to be really interesting to see if people, players are going to be willing to give big contracts to go for a less contract somewhere else. Number one, it's going to be harder than I think people are giving it credit for. Number two, I loved how a baseball owner who probably has given a lifetime contract before in baseball came in and was like, well, why don't we just, stretch out the years to ridiculous lengths? That's such an American thing, and I never even kind of clicked with me. But anyways, La Liga, Athletic Club, absolutely fumbled the bag to Almeria. And I don't know if anyone has realized, but Almeria might be the worst La Liga side of all time. I kid you not. They are 20th with 24 games played, 0 wins, 7 draws, and 17 losses with a goal differential of -29. 7 points on the year. That is atrocious. I think they almost are going to break a record for no wins in Liga for it's been more than 6 months. Did not realize how bad they were. because when they went up against Madrid not that long ago, I was like, okay, well, there's something there. But no, they have not beaten a single team.
Yeah, they're a horrible side, and this is a big, like you said, kind of a fumble for Athletic Club, who are fighting with Atletico Madrid for that fourth spot. Madrid, Atletico Madrid, of course. We're not going to use Real in this context, so just keep that as we go through this. But Madrid, dropping points the other day as well. So this was a huge opportunity for Athletic Club to kind of gain some ground and still, especially against the bottom team, a team that is so poor, as you mentioned. You really thought that they would get the W here and tie Madrid on points at 48 points and obviously jump them with the goal differential and sitting in the cat seat for that fourth spot in La Liga. That doesn't happen now. Alvaro Morata's injury doesn't look as severe as we thought. He is going to be out for a little while, but luckily no damage to the knee. And so you look at things like this, and as you go towards the end of the season, Daniel, little things like this could make a huge impact to placement in Champions League and ultimately the title or the table at the end. I do think that, as we've talked about, a team like Girona doesn't necessarily finish in the top four, or maybe has a little bit more of a battle on that fourth spot as well. Only 8 points clear right now of a club like Athletic Club. Can Girona keep that momentum going, especially now that they kind of are out of the title race? I think we'll see as that continues. I think you had a little bit of momentum, a little bit of, hey, we have a chance of winning this title, so that keeps them going. And now that that's kind of diminished and by the wayside, will they kind of fall back to where historically they've been as a squad the last couple of years? Time will tell. But this was a big opportunity for Athletic Club, and they squandered it again. You mentioned, Almeria not really having won a game, but they gave Barcelona as well a fight recently too. Now I don't know if that's a testament to Barcelona or not, but even though they haven't won a game here, they are going to be potentially a spoiler going forward for one of these two teams, and we just saw it on Monday night.
Yeah, they're also historically unlucky. I wish I followed this story more, to be honest, but I mean, when they lost to Real Madrid, it was some of the worst refereeing decisions I've seen in a while. It seems like they just can't catch a break. They went down a man. Their best winger, probably a guy who's going to earn a big move in the summer that saves Almeria for next year, got 2 yellows as an attacker. The post saved them, but then Athletic Club would pour men forward, and they would counter. And they had 3 opportunities within the last 5 minutes, a 3-on-2 with numbers, and they just either missed or didn't have the confidence to put the ball in the back of the net. It was just really weird. But it's going to be really interesting. Like you said, Girona and Athletic Club, 10 points between them, and I think they do play this weekend, which we'll get to in a little bit. So that will really be a good litmus test for both teams, because Athletic Club are in a good way right now, but they needed those 3 points, and then Girona have kind of suffered some setbacks, like you said. So it's going to be really interesting to see. Now, I do want to quickly mention, did you see Depay's gift to Griezmann?
I did. A very nice gesture. Of course, Antoine Griezmann becomes the all-time goal scorer for Atletico Madrid, and Memphis Depay gives him a wonderful, nice gold-encrusted ring. Going forward, I think that's going to be useless, but a nice gesture. And of course, Antoine Griezmann is a special player who will only continue to add goals to his tally now that he is the most all-time goal scorer, especially given his age, and he's going to be there for a few more years. So you just love seeing players recognize, and of course it builds camaraderie on the squad, and it just shows you how close they are in the locker room. Of course, they're when they're on the field together as Atletico Madrid, they're friendly. When they're playing for their national teams, they're not as friendly, but it just shows you kind of how close these guys are. And it's a little different nowadays, right? Especially historically, maybe you wouldn't be as close with a compatriot of a different nation, but especially we're seeing it especially in U.S. sports too. Some of these rivalries go away. Not that France and Netherlands are really a rivalry in the sport, but there's always been some type of disconnect between players, just given that history. And like I said, even in U.S. sports and in college, you're losing some of those rivalries just because they're they're so connected, they're so involved, even at a young age, that those friendships are built, and
It's a
clearly,
brotherhood.
yeah, it's a brotherhood, and clearly, Memphis Depay thought it was, and I'm sure it wasn't just Memphis. I'm sure that was a gift from the team, and
yeah.
some type of discussion about what we should do for Antoine, and of course, well deserved.
Yeah, maybe for our 100th episode, I should get one of those pinky rings. If you gifted that, that'd be pretty cool. To rotate to Serie A, another team lost ground here. Juventus lose ground on Inter. Obviously, no Vlahovic, which was kind of the deciding factor here. No final edge. He's been in wonderful form. Chiesa just keeps leaving these performances that we know he's such a good player, and since that long-term injury that he had, he just can't get back to his best. And he shows flashes every once in a while, and I'll mention it usually when he does, but oh my god. And he's such a big player for the Euros too, for Italy, so they got to get him back on track. Maybe Allegri's part of the problem there, maybe. So we'll see kind of with the next manager who comes in, if he takes that next step as a player, as well as a lot of other Juventus talents that they have. But now they're 7 points back on Inter, who have a game in hand.
Big point right there.
Milan is only 1 point back now. We've been really mean to Milan. I'm going to go ahead and apologize here. Pioli, I still don't think you should be the manager, but Rafael Leao has kind of bounced back in form, and they're just grinding out these wins. So, I mean, AC Milan, they're not that far away. I mean, still, it'll probably be 10 points after Friday, but they're still I don't know, maybe this Inter story is going to fade off into the distance by the time this league ends.
Yeah, I still think this is Inter's league. You mentioned even they have a game in hand on AC Milan as well, right? So they're 8 points clear with a game in hand on AC Milan. But I think the story here, like you said, is that Juventus are a bunch of pieces, and I don't think that they're a team based off the way Allegri plays them. We've seen that before with the way his style is. You mentioned Chiesa, who's had flashes coming off that injury. He looked really good for certain elements recently, and then kind of fell off. And it wasn't long. It was kind of flashes in the pan, but it's a long injury. It's a serious injury. He had no training camp, quote unquote. So he's kind of just getting into the flow of things again a little bit, and it takes a lot to come back from something like that, especially when you're not getting consistent reps or having the progression that you would have normally in a training camp type of environment. We've seen that in other sports too recently, where players that are coming back because they take time, and all of a sudden they have hot moments, and then they kind of fade because you can't keep that sustained momentum going forward. So I think they go as far as a player like him takes them. Of course, no Vlahovic is a big deal too in this game, but I think AC Milan, we knew, not to discredit the Inter story, because of course they're top of the table. I think this league is over, especially if they win that game in hand. They'll be 12 points clear of AC Milan and 11 points clear of Juventus, excuse me. But I do think that basically you're looking at an AC Milan side that is the second strongest in Italy, which we knew kind of last year with the way that they finished and the way that they went to the Champions League. And so now you're starting to see kind of that season-long impact come into form, right? They had a little bit of a stretch, but they had the talent, and Pioli's figured it out, and they're probably going to finish second, which to me makes the most sense based off of the roster and what they've done the last couple of years.
I have to agree with that, and kind of like I said before when we did our first predictions, one of our first shows, I literally said Leao is going to take this team where it wants to go. And so not to put all the weight on one player, but Leao did not play well for a good month and a half, and that's when Milan had their big blip. And now he's back to his best, getting on the score sheet every single game, and they're just climbing up the table. So Pioli lives or dies by how Rafa Leao performs. So that's a scary thing for Milan, and that's not how a team should be. They shouldn't just rely. Liverpool lost their best player for a month and a half, and we've turned out wins. with Mohamed Salah being out. And he's actually getting back now, but like you can't just depend on one player, so that's why I don't rate Pioli that high. But
Different system though too, right? Because obviously Premier League money and everything like that, the depth and things like that. So you have to keep that in effect too.
They've built a pretty reasonable, decent squad at this point. I mean, they just sent the Catalare at Atalanta on loan, so like they could have had him. But anyways, there was a game yesterday, real quick. Bologna toppled Fiorentina 2-0. Weird game, kind of like a primer before the Champions League match, if you will. They dominated the game. It was not an easy game against La Viola. They're now 4 points ahead of Rome and tied with Atalanta on points on fourth, which is super interesting. You know, Thiago Motta, a extremely good coach, and later when we have more time in a couple future episodes, I would like to speculate where I think he's going to go, because I do not think he will be staying at Bologna long term. Now, we have the Champions League. I wish we could insert a soundbite of the Champions song, but I won't do that.
Dun, 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 the Champions!
Thank you. But I think first we should get to this Bayern-Lazio game, go in reverse order, because I think we learned more about these two games that happened yesterday more than the Tuesday games. So, Bayern-Lazio with a crazy 1-0 win. I thought Bayern outplayed them. I do. I also, Upamecano gets a red card. I thought Bayern were great until the final third, very static. We've talked about that ad nauseum with Tuchel's setup. All confidence with that static play and missed chances, all confidence seems to be lost. I mean, Harry Kane's dropping into like CDM positions to pick up the ball because he's like kind of lost, which is really interesting because he did that at Spurs and it always drove me crazy. What do you think? Oh, and also, nice little primer, two Chelsea ex-coaches, Sarri Ball and Tuchel Ball, going together in the Champions League that you are not in. That's neither here.
Neither are you, by the way, so let's not rub that in from a...
We have European...
Okay, all right.
And we don't go to through managers like Handy, which I was looking up because I didn't know they... Tuchel separate or relieved Sarri of his role. Lampard was right between that.
Yeah, the wonderful Lampard era.
And then Ciro Immobile with a nice penalty after the red card, which was not a pretty challenge at all. I just, stream of consciousness there. Go.
Where do you start here?
Can we laugh?
We can laugh. I mean, we should laugh. Boy, the mighty fall really hard. We've seen this with Chelsea, not to bring it back to Chelsea, but to your point, it always comes back to Chelsea for me. But no, it's one of those things, right? Bayern Munich have been the class of the Bundesliga and arguably of this tournament for a very long time.
They won 3 years?
Yeah, not too long ago. And so to see the demise of the club, let's not call it demise. They're going to be fine next year when they bounce back. But this year is obviously very, very rough. The first time in 11 seasons that the Bayern Munich squad lose a round of 16 game, which is pretty remarkable as well. Thomas Tuchel not having a good moment. He's lost 10 games in 43 games since he's taken over.
I saw
and 0 shots on goal in this one. You mentioned the domination, over zero shots on 17 shot attempts, but not on goal. Dominating possession. Again, another way that you expect this game to have played out, right? Because Lazio, going into it, were clearly the undermanned or under-talented squad here, as is always the case with Bayern Munich. This roster is just so good and so filled of talent across the board. And it's just kind of one of those things where Thomas Tuchel, you wonder if this is his doing. You mentioned Harry Kane trying to come a little deeper to get the ball. We saw it against Leverkusen as well. We've seen it a little bit more recently in the league across the board. Just his heat map is not where they expect him to be as the number 9 when they signed him. So you just wonder, and we saw this with Chelsea, the way Tuchel plays a little bit more defensively and wants to kind of play that more pragmatic style. You wonder, Daniel, if Bayern Munich made the right choice here by getting rid of Nagelsmann and bringing in Tuchel. It's the only thing I can keep thinking about. Nagelsmann was at the game against Leverkusen, and you couldn't help but see the smile on his face a little bit as they went down. So you just wonder sometimes too much of a good thing is too much of a good thing. And I think Bayern Munich got a little bit ahead of themselves with this decision, and it's costing them right now big time. And we've talked about it before. I don't think Thomas Tuchel gets fired, although you never know. This could change things. But from my lens, unless they know that they're not going to get Xabi Alonso, which is highly possible because he may go to Liverpool, then you start looking at a replacement. Otherwise, that's who you're waiting on. And why would you take an interim coach, and who is that? Do you bring back Hansi Flick or a manager like that for 6 months just to kind of get you until you get that long-term manager? But again, this is a very, very interesting, and not to take anything away from Lazio, there's still two legs here. Bayern can definitely take care of business and advance, but this was a very surprising result.
There's so many storylines, and we touch on a lot of them. Check out our Twitter at Fulltime Roundup. I tweeted out, was the decision to sack Nagelsmann one of the worst decisions that Bayern had ever made? They were doing historically well in the Champions League when they fired him. I don't think they were first in the league, but it was obvious that they were going to probably win it. And they are out of the polk eye. It doesn't look great for them in the Bundesliga. They're 5 points behind Bayer, excuse me, and then they're losing in the knockout stages. This could be a trophy-less season for Bayern and Kane, and
that wouldn't be too new for Harry Kane.
That wouldn't be, but still, it's just so interesting. If I was the board, I would sack Tuchel yesterday and just have Hansi Flick see it out for the rest of the season. I think he would do a better job with this roster. I think he would reinvigorate the squad, get the confidence back. Don't rate Hansi Flick that much as a coach, to be honest, but I still think he's better than Tuchel in the current state that they're in. Now, real quick before we move on, is Serie A the last place for these number 10 type players who just don't fit into the modern athleticism of soccer? And does that make sense? I was watching Luis Alberto. He's like an ancient relic of a player. You don't see a Luis Alberto or a Dybala or an Ozil or a Kaká anymore. And I've seen a lot of discourse on Twitter, so I was phrasing, is Serie A one of the last places you're going to see that type of player? Because Premier League clubs can't afford to have one of those players on the pitch these days with just the athleticism and the defensive needs and all that stuff.
Yeah, I think you just nailed it at that last point. Is the depth and the style of play for Serie A is just a little bit more, how do I put this nicely, laissez-faire, not as intense, not as top to bottom, all 11 players have to be at the peak. I think you can get away with having one or two players to be a little bit more of a coaster or kind of just past their prime, if you will, and that's just a testament to just how strong the play is and intenseness of Premier League or team like a surprisingly La Liga and Bundesliga week in week out. You see that in tournament play too, right? And they've had that problem of late, and they've kind of worked through it a little bit. Of course, Serie A having a great European performance last year across Europa and Champions League and Europa Conference League, honestly. So they've kind of gotten away from that in the past couple of seasons. But yeah, ultimately, I don't think it's an as intense league top to bottom week in week out, and so you do get away with some of those players having
maybe Spain, maybe France as well.
France maybe more so, yeah.
I feel like Serie A has the most type of players, and those are the players I enjoy to watch the most. So I was just thinking about that the other day. All right, to move on, PSG beat Real Sociedad. I saw a tweet earlier last night, and we call them Real, or we call them Sociedad, and apparently that's a big no-no. Did not know that. So Rob Palmer tweets out, just a note to anyone watching Real Sociedad tonight, calling them just Sociedad is like calling Crystal Palace Crystal. It's either the full name or La Real. Did not know that. Thought I'd teach our listeners something because we shorthanded a lot of the time.
First of all, I would never call Crystal Palace Crystal. I would call them Palace, if anything.
It's exactly, yeah, you get what I'm saying though. All right, so number one, Ray Hudson. We talked about him before. He's the best. He had some all-time quotes. I'm actually going to start making a list of just Ray Hudson quotes.
You might be here a while.
I will. From the game. And to start out the game, he goes, I'm not going to speculate about Mbappe, blah, 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 to Madrid. We're not here to do that today. And he literally just did that. And his co-commentator was like, dude, you literally just did what you're not supposed to do. Number 2, when Mikel Merino shot, that shot was a cross between a sledgehammer and a Robin Hood arrow. That's all time. All time. And my last one, Mbappe scored. And he said, giving Mbappe space is like giving your neck to Dracula. Another all-time quote. So I'm going to keep this in my notepad listed. I also took a look at his Wikipedia. I'm not going to go into that today, but it is a wonderful read, and I recommend you do it.
If you don't know Ray, please...
Follower of the show, too.
I was going to say follower of the show. Please go check him out. One of the great commentators and play-by-plays of all time. Color commentator, excuse me, not play-by-play, but just a great listen. And, of course, his calls of Messi over the years have always been, for me, one of the best things and to listen to. And just go check out some of the highlights on YouTube or anywhere that you can get some of those calls from him. He is one of the greatest of all time. But this game, Daniel, to go into the game itself was really kind of what you expected. PSG really dominated the second half. First half, very, very boring across the board. And honestly, we talked about Real Sociedad, to get the correct after you just schooled us on that. We talked about what they've done in the league, and they've faltered a little bit. And so this was, to me, an exciting opportunity as the draw came out. But the way that Real has played of late, it really did not feel like it was going to be much of a contest, and it feels like this one's kind of already over. Of course, Mbappe gets a goal, and then Barcola, a youngster that is coming into his own with a beautiful finish for the second, and it kind of wrapped things up for me. Of course, it was at home for PSG, and they will go to Spain for the second leg, but it doesn't feel like Real Sociedad has much to fight on and give PSG a chance here, or a fight, I should say.
You know what they say, the most dangerous lead is a 2-1 lead. So if they get a goal early in the reverse fixture, it could get very interesting, as PSG are known for their mishaps in the Champions League. But I will agree, it was a good litmus test, especially because PSG were completely outplayed in the first half. But when you have the likes of Barcola, who's an absolute dog, who's completely grown into his own, like you said, Mbappe and Dembele all running at you with Muani and Ramos off the bench. I mean, these are track stars. These guys are rapid, and it's not even fair. So I just can't trust PSG, but I thought they did a good job today, and I think this was a huge win, as they're not always tested well in the French league, that they can win these tough games. And this was a sneaky tough game. I think you cannot underestimate that enough.
It is a Champions League, so all games are sneaky tough, but this really wasn't going to be, from my lens, like I said, going into it I thought yes, but once you saw the recent form, it kind of was, recent changed things up. So
also, another sneaky good game, or sneaky opponent, Copenhagen hosts City. They go up pretty early, completely under siege, but Ederson gives up an absolute stinker of a giveaway. He's supposed to be the best goalkeeper in the world with his feet. I don't know what the hell he was thinking, but thank God City have KDB and Foden, because they linked up to score not once but twice. And I was extremely impressed with how Copenhagen played, and El Yunusi, and I want to do a whole thing on their coach in the future.
Yeah, of course we talked about this. They've been a tough out, even in the group stages, and going to Copenhagen is not an easy place to play. They do kind of bounce back after giving up a goal to Kevin De Bruyne and get that equalizer. Of course, Ederson really kind of made that play happen. But then you talked about the class that City have, and goddamn, Kevin De Bruyne is a great soccer player. That's all you can really say about it. He's just a goal, 2 assists, and honestly, the goal from Bernardo Silva might have been the goal of the day, not in the entire Champions League, because we'll get to the goal of the day, maybe the goal of the round here in a second, but of that game, just a great touch and around the keeper. Now, One thing to be concerned about if you're a Manchester City fan is, of course, Jack Grealish comes off 20 minutes into the game with a groin injury, and then Bernardo Silva, speaking of it, Bernardo Silva gets knocked pretty good on his ankle. Does look like it's going to be probably just a couple games with an ankle injury, but you never know. Pep Guardiola did bring it up after the game, so it's concerning when he brings it up.
And Guardiola.
And Guardiola and Kovacic are out as well, though Kovacic closer to being back. So yeah, they are injured, and so they're fighting on a couple fronts too, with a big game against Chelsea on Saturday, and then they go back to Champions League in that following week. So it's a tough time right now, but you do expect them to kind of come through it pretty good. And now that they have a 3-1 lead going home in this fixture, they feel pretty comfortable. They can almost play a secondary team in the second leg against Copenhagen and still advance. So you feel pretty good if you're a City fan after this game.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I felt like I wanted to see more from them. I thought they were a little vulnerable. They did a lot of sitting back, Copenhagen did, and then just counterattacking. And I thought the counterattacking looked really well, really set up.
It was a siege, though. I mean, City dominated this game. So
no doubt.
And they scored 3. So, it wasn't like they played poorly, but how many goals do you expect? That's just the standard that they've set, right? That we expect them to score 6 or 7 against a team like Copenhagen.
Well, it's also Copenhagen, too. Like, they've been, like, the biggest surprise probably in the Champions League this year. So I guess I don't want to underestimate them. But I also, I mentioned El Yunusi, but I also want to mention Gellert real quick, the 20-year-old right back, Danish. He kept up with Doku on a sprint. That is not normal. So I think there was a lot of scouts watching him, and I don't think he'll be on the team probably this time next year. Now, Leipzig, Madrid, we're very hard on Marco Rosa. Madrid eke out a 1-0 win from a Brahim Diaz wonder goal with that beautiful wand with the left foot. But I thought Leipzig played really well here, and Andre Lunin actually kept them in the game.
Yeah, a friend of mine texted me, listener of the show, who knows who you are, doesn't like being called out, but he said, why is RB Leipzig so low in the Bundesliga? They should be dominating this game. And I said, because they should be dominating this game, and they are not. That is why they are low in the table in the league. You mentioned they should have been up 2 or 3 in this one in the first half, but they end up with 0. And obviously controversial decision on the offside and with Sesko and all that.
I think it was correct.
I think so too, to be honest. He was behind the keeper and distract, or however you want to define that, distracting or impacting the play of the keeper. So I'm good with the call.
Unfortunate.
Unnecessary. He didn't need to do it. But yeah, I mean, Lunin was again great in this game to start things off, and then we've touched on it before, Daniel, just the way that Madrid play, and you never know with this squad, the talent that they have can get a wonder goal like Diaz did. If you haven't seen that goal, go check it out. Danny Carvajal somehow gets an assist on this one. I don't know how that's possible. This kid just took it over, and he's been an awesome addition for them this year, coming back from loan, and just what he's done with the injuries and how people have been in and out. And he's come in and really gotten some big goals for them this season. And, of course, now he's hurt. He did leave the game as well. So, yeah, so we'll see how, Madrid handles this. Of course, so far so good as far as handling all of the injuries that they've had. But what do you expect? The monster that is Real Madrid, if you don't knock them out, like we've talked about before, Daniel, they're going to come back and bite you. And they did just that. And now they go back home with a 1-0 advantage on the aggregate. So we'll see what happens here.
Yeah, that was a Messi-esque kind of goal with the left foot, number 1. Number 2, on the betting segment, I said, someone needs to fill Jude Bellingham's shoes, and I think it could be Diaz. He's been that good. He's taken a big step since Milan. I thought he was great at Milan, but I didn't see this Diaz at Milan, so I'm very impressed with the development that Ancelotti's made with him throughout the last 8 to 9 months. Also, I think Sesko, this was a big game for him to announce himself to the world stage. Thought he was very dangerous, but he just couldn't put the ball in the back of the net, and that was super unfortunate for him. And I also think it's so interesting how Real Madrid kind of have reverted back to the Mourinho ways of kind of sitting back once they get their goal and then just counterattacking with the pace that they have. You would think that arguably one of the best teams in the world, if not the best, would not park the bus a little bit and then just play that counterattacking style. but it works. Also, a little bit of news: Modric not renewing his contract. I cannot believe it's been 12 years. I didn't think it was that long. Did you?
I didn't either. Of course, he's won everything and everything you can think of multiple times over, and arguably one of the best players in Europe and for a very long time. Definitely the best Croatian player of all time, hands down. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens to a player like Toni Kroos, who there have been a lot of discussions about whether he's going to retire as well or move on. So it's a changing of the guard. Luckily, Daniel, they have a player like Camavinga. They have a player like Tchouaméni. They have a player like Jude Bellingham, Valverde. So you can just add the list and goes on and on about, not to diminish the credit and the skill and just the talent that is Luka Modric, but long term you're okay if you're a Real Madrid fan. But again, Daniel, like I said, this was one of those games that you just looked at it on paper and you thought to yourself, how does Real Madrid win this game, right? How did they come out of this one? Again, they were outshot 9-3, on goal, 50-50 possession, but it felt like more from Leipzig's perspective in the early half of the game. But there's just so much talent on this Real Madrid side that they found a way. And like I said, and we've seen this before, even if it's up against a team like Manchester City, if you don't put them away, they'll come back and get you. And they came back and got Leipzig, and now Leipzig has a real challenge to go back. And you wonder if Jude Bellingham will be healthy for that second leg, if it's enough time for him to come back from that ankle injury. If it's really needed, can he come on the pitch? It's going to be close, but it's kind of almost do or die for Leipzig at this point.
Yeah, Jude is, if anyone can do that, it's Jude, right? So he is a superhero. But yeah, I mean, I guess I'd still take this as a positive for Leipzig. Let's just see if they can translate this type of performance in the league, which they really haven't been able to do all season. So a little disappointed there. But before we kind of dive into predictions and go into a break, I wanted to give you an update. Probably a month or two ago, I made a bold prediction saying that Leicester City was going to break the championship points record with over 100 points, beating Burnley of last year. Just a little update for you. There's 15 games left. They played 45, which I didn't know. 32 played, 25, 3, and 4. Phenomenal record. They're on 78 points, so they only need 22 to break 100. So basically 7 wins and a draw in 15 games. That's very doable. So not to pat myself on the back, but I think they're going to be able to get it done. Now, some other interesting things. Leeds hold second place right now. They're starting to pull away and gain form. Daniel Farke is their coach, which we know very well from the Premier League days of being a yo-yo manager. Also, Southampton is in third. Ipswich, West Brom, Coventry hold playoffs, but Coventry is in that 6th place, and 6 through 10 is completely up for grabs within 3 points of each other. So like Norwich with Josh Sargent, Hull City, which has a couple of Liverpool.
Don't get John excited. Don't get John too excited about Norwich.
Josh Sargent's been on fire. Ugliest jerseys of all time, but he's bagged like 8 or 9 goals in 12 appearances. He's on absolute fire right now. Hull City, ton of Liverpool loanies, Preston North End, and then Sunderland, which everyone knows Sunderland from Sunderland till I die. New season, by the way, check it out. So it's going to be really interesting. Also, out of context, football tweeted, it's Leicester City, Leeds, and Southampton going down, and they have the same exact order at the top of the Championship League right now. I don't know if that's ever been done before, but how funny would that be if the same 3 that went down went up in the same exact order? I don't know, it's kind of weird.
Same 3 will probably go back down, just to say that out loud now.
Well,
but we'll see. We'll see. That's true.
Or Everton.
That's true.
That's Everton always do this.
That's true. But of course, Championship is getting to that point where it gets very, very exciting. You mentioned the promotion relegation for both the Champions League or Championship and the Premier League. That's the arguably the time of year that we're getting to, and There's that playoff is such a fun watch and means so much to so many people and fans, and just kind of if you can get into that 6th spot, you never know. That's the beauty of the playoffs. And so a team like Norwich, of course, John Hayes, a huge Norwich fan and friend of the pod, he's hoping to get in that 6th spot. But you mentioned a lot of teams there just trying to fight for that last spot. So it'll be interesting to see who gets in. Of course, Ipswich have been. We're right there for 2nd place all season long, and they've started to slip a little bit. So now they're into 4th place behind Leeds and Southampton. You wonder kind of if they're going to be able to hang on, and it would have been nice to see them move up. Of course, they lost to Maidstone in the FA Cup as well.
I don't know that much about Ipswich.
Historically, pretty big side, but they've been kind of in that Sunderland level tier for a while. So it's going to be interesting to see if they can bounce back and make that move and that jump up to the Premier League. We'll see what happens.
Couple predictions here. One, Leeds. That's Ewan's team, so recurring guest of the show. We'll be rooting for Leeds for his sake. Also, I could see Hull City in Norwich replace Coventry or Ipswich or West Brom. I think Southampton's here to stay. I highly rate their coach. I would look into him if you ever have time. But my prediction is Hull and Norwich to be in the playoffs. Hull City got Fabio Carvalho in January and has completely transformed the side from Liverpool. And then Norwich, if Sargent can stay healthy, I'm very bullish on their future of getting out. Daniel Farke, if there's anyone that's going to get them out of the championship, it's him. Now, real quick, another league that we don't really touch on, we kind of ignore, but I actually happen to notice it's a very interesting race right now. The Scottish League, Celtic and Rangers are tied on 62 points right now. Sometimes the race is close, sometimes it's a blowout. I didn't really look up, historically the last 5 years who's won, but Rangers, I know for a fact, did not start out the season very hot. So it's Rodgers versus Clement. We all know Brendan Rodgers historically, so I'm not really going to go into him much. But Clement replaced Michael Beale, came in October 23. He's played 24 games and has gone 23-1. So phenomenal winning percentage. Michael Beale did not get a single trophy for Rangers last season. Was fired after 7 games because they lost 3 of the first 7. So Clement has completely transformed the side. This guy has coached at Ghent, Brugge, and Monaco before, but he's hitting at a 83% winning percentage, which is pretty insane. So, first of all, who do you think is going to win?
Well, first of all, if you can be on my side and give my team an extra point, that would be great too. Both teams are at 61 points, not 62 points. But
wait, really?
I will take the extra point if you want to give it to Chelsea and move us up the table.
Chelsea.
But
Okay,
anyway, no, 61 points across for both teams. I'm looking at the table right now, Daniel. I don't know. To me, it looks like the differentiator, because they're both tied on 40 plus 40 goal differential.
They have the same goal differential?
Same points.
Wow.
And so I'm wondering if it's goals for right now that I'm looking at. And Celtic, of course, have 4 more goals for, and they sit atop the table. Could be head-to-head too. I just don't know what the differentiator is here. Rangers have more wins. They have 1 more win, but Rangers have 4 draws versus Rangers 4 loss. So it's so tight, and these 2 teams are perennially the top 2 teams. Of course, the rest of the league is about 15 points behind them, if not more. So it's really between these 2 teams as well. I think the game that's going to decide it, of course, is the second matchup between these 2 sides, which comes at the end of the season, 1 game before the end.
Ooh.
So it's really going to be down to that game on April 6th. And it's at Rangers this time, or it's at Celtic, excuse me.
Are you going to back the green or the blue?
I like green. I'm a green guy, so I'm going to go with green. Not that I know too much about them otherwise, but give me the green.
Based off Stevie's G's ties with Rangers and Todd Cantwell and Jose Cifuentes from LAFC, I'm going to back Rangers to go in and win this. I just don't love that Celtic squad that much. I think Rangers should have a better squad, but it's going to be an interesting ride. So, we'll actually keep you in the loop since now we picked opposite teams to win. But I wanted to give that a shout out.
That's at Rangers, by the way. Sorry, the first leg was at Celtic Park.
Okay, which plays in my hands.
Yeah.
Love that. So we're going to take a quick break. So first of all, please follow the show on Twitter at Fulltime Roundup. Follow Matt at Life of M. Gesslin. Follow me at Liverpool CLTFC. And please subscribe to our YouTube. We're going to start rolling stuff out, including a betting segment once or twice a week. So please hit that subscribe button. Watch it. Show us, tell us what you like, what you don't like, what you want to see, because we're willing to do content for the listeners. So please just tap into that. If we're missing anything, interact with us on Twitter. We'd love to hear you. Download, rate 5 stars, and subscribe, please.
And we're back. Of course, Thursday, Daniel, means only one thing: predictions. It's our prediction show. A lot to cover. Europa League games as well on the docket here, as well as domestic league games, which we're going to get to. Just so in case you don't remember how this works, or if you're new to the show, Daniel gives games, and I kind of give my first take, and then of course Daniel gives his thought, but he's the one picking the games for us, and these are his selections. So if you have any issue with the selections he's picking, again, follow him at Liverpool CLTFC and just berate him and tell him which games he needs to pick. And also, just for context, he also gives me one nap game a session, so I'm waiting to see which one that is. So Daniel, fire away and lead us off with either wherever we're starting, whether that's in the leagues or in Europa League or wherever we're starting. Let's get this thing going, though.
So go ahead if it is Thursday morning today. So if you want to hear about Europa League predictions, go ahead and listen to Sunday show. We did at the end a little quick Europa and UCL prediction. So see how we did on that. But we will just be doing domestic, starting out with Liverpool Brentford, and I feel like some people wouldn't have added this game to the docket, but I think this is a very intriguing game because I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that Liverpool win this game against Brentford.
Yeah, Ivan Toney back now. They've looked different with Ivan Toney. Of course, they lost to Manchester City, but they looked very good in that game, and Liverpool need to keep winning. That's really the ultimate, that's why this game, especially this game, and I don't know if you have the Arsenal game on there as well, but both games are important for both of those teams to keep winning because we know Manchester City are going to win more than likely most of their games. So I'm long-winded here to say I think 1-1 draw.
1-1 draw. It is at Brentford. I'm going to back Liverpool to win this game 2-1. I think it's going to be a fun game. I think there will be goals. Sneak peek to the betting segment. But I could see Brentford going up kind of like they did with City, and then Liverpool having to fight back, kind of that blueprint of a game. So it should be very interesting to see. Moving on, just happens to have both of our teams on the prediction show. Not a coincidence. City versus Chelsea. Are you all in here or?
Oh no, this is a blowout. This 3-1 City.
So an emotional hedge. For
yeah, I'm just gonna.
3-1 isn't that bad.
It's not that bad, I guess. It'll be worse though on paper. It'll be a domination, and City will score 3, and you can compare us to a team like Copenhagen, I guess, afterwards. But 3-1 City in this one.
Might have to borrow a Chelsea kit for this one. I'm going to back Chelsea here in a big way, but I'm going to be a Chelsea fan this match without a doubt. I call it emotional hedge like you are probably doing as well. I'm going to say I think Chelsea got so lucky in the first leg of this fixture. I'm going to say it's a blowout in a big way. I'm going to go 4-1. I think it's going to be worse than 3-1.
And of course, your game is the early game, so you'll have really, it won't be simulcast. You'll be able to know if you guys are gaining points on City or what that status looks like.
If Liverpool win and then you guys get killed, it'll be an amazing day. If Liverpool tie and Chelsea stay in it, it'll still be a good day. There's so many good possibilities here for me and my mental health this weekend. To move to the Bundesliga, Heidenheim plays Leverkusen. Now, Heidenheim promotion side, you've touched on them quite a bit, Matt. They've been a revelation this season. Very, outplaying their talent, And I think this is this is almost like a Brentford-Liverpool game, and this is kind of like my comp for it. I think it's a very interesting game, and I don't know how it's going to go.
Yeah, out-kicking their coverage, as some would say, right?
Out-kicking their coverage.
And so I think this is a big one here. Leverkusen had a big win against Bayern Munich that we all know about. They'll play today as well in the Europa League, and then they go into this game. And I think Heidenheim will surprise. I think they'll get a draw, 2-2 draw. Doesn't impact the title race as far as my view on it. I think Bayern are just in real disarray. So I think, and we touched on it, Leverkusen are not going to win every game. And so I think this is one of those games that.
But they keep doing it.
They do keep doing it, but I don't think they lose here. I just think they drop points. A 2-2 draw, though. I think it'll be exciting.
I'm going to go 2-1 Leverkusen, but it's going to be like one of those vintage Leverkusen extra time winners or something like that. I think this will be a very fun game to watch. It might be a little cagey because there's so much at stake for Bayern or Bayer. But they're not going to be looking, ahead at these Bayern games as much as they were, because I feel like they know that they're the better team now, and they've shown that.
Nap game.
Leipzig versus Gladbach. You think this one's the nap game?
One of them. I think Gladbach played just such a horrible style, and Leipzig we've touched on. I do think Leipzig win this one probably 1-0, but it's a really boring, not fun game to watch.
Very cagey. Okay, I'm going to go 2-1 Leipzig. But it's hard to, I feel like it's very hard to handicap this one, especially with a tough game. And adding a new little wrinkle to this prediction show, I'm calling it coin flip games. Still workshopping, but Lazio Bologna coin flip game. What do you think?
Bologna.
Bologna? Even with Lazio off a big win?
Yep. Lazio, no chance. Bologna.
This, I think, is a nap game for sure.
Oh, yeah, I don't disagree with that either.
I'm
2
going to
nap
go
games.
1-1 draw. Fulham versus Villa.
Villa need this.
Villa need this bad. But Fulham are in good form.
2-2.
2-2. Okay, I can rock with that. I'm going to go 1-1. Actually, no. Yes, no. I'm going to go 1-1. I don't know how to handicap that one. And then Newcastle Bournemouth.
2-1 Newcastle.
2-1 Newcastle. Bournemouth had kind of cooled off as of late. And Newcastle, you never know what you're going to get. Can only Bournemouth in this game. I'm going to ride or die with the Cherries. I'm going to go 2-1 Bournemouth away. So that's our predictions. You hear it here first. Thank you, for tuning in on such an early morning. We'll definitely have this out.
Well, you won't be listening on an early morning, but we recorded it for you on an early morning.
We did. That is true. Sorry. It is still early for my brain. Again, please subscribe to the YouTube at Full-Time Roundup. Follow our Twitter at the same handle. Follow Matt and I at Life of Them Guessing and Liverpool CLTFC. Rate 5 stars, subscribe, download, and interact with us, please, and have a wonderful day.